Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Gentech PC product showcase. Today we're going to be doing a full-length feature review on the brand new MSI GT75 Titan. This is going to start off as one of the biggest releases of the year, as it has brand new hardware that has been previously unreleased. The NVIDIA RTX 2080 and also the Intel Core i9. This combination of the strongest CPU and GPU that is currently out right now means that this laptop will have some very significant performance numbers. And of course we want to test it out and see what those numbers are and make sure that this laptop can handle that kind of power. So as in our traditional review format, we'll go ahead and start everything off with the unboxing so you can see what you would get if you order one of these for yourself. So we do have a double boxing being used here, a plain cardboard box on the outside and then the actual product box on the inside. That'll help keep it protected a little bit further during shipment and also just keeps prying eyes from knowing what you just had delivered to your door. So nothing fancy with our box here. It's pretty much a plain MSI colors box. And we do see that we have our laptop self-contained with some extra padding around the edges. So without having to make you wait too long to see the new laptop, here you go. It's pretty much ready to be seen already. We have several different layers of protection on there, including this extra layer of plastic, just to make sure that nothing gets scratched. Now for the accessories box. It's actually got quite a bit of heft to it because there's a lot of power equipment inside of here. So as you can see at the top left and right corners, we have two different power banks, and that's going to be responsible for powering the laptop. Now we have seen this kind of setup before on some very high-end laptops, usually when it's an SLI system, but actually the GTX 1080 SLI has lower performance numbers than a single RTX 2080. So we've done the math for you, and based on the current amperage and voltage, each one of these power adapters gives out 230 watts of power each. So the combined power of those together is 460 watts this laptop can use. So with the power adapters set aside, let's go back into our accessories box and see what's left. Now this piece is the actual coupler that will piece those two separate power adapters together and allow that laptop to have all that power in one connection. The next side of the box over to the right is going to have our two power adapter cables. Now these will be slightly different depending on your region. So these of course are the make and model to work on the North America power grid. And lastly, on the left side of the box, we have the standard affair, warranty information, driver information, and actually a couple of extra screws in here as well, which we'll assume is to help mount a 2.5-inch disc in the laptop. And alright, that's everything out of the box. So the unboxing phase of the review is complete, and it's time to move on to the next phase. Let's take a first look at the laptop. So here it is live and in person with all of its glory, the MSI GT75. Now as you can see, the looks have not changed too much as compared to the former MSI GT models. They went for more of an upgrade on the hardware and not so much the outside looks. While we're taking that first look, let's look at the interfaces as well. RJ45 for network connectivity, mini DisplayPort, Thunderbolt port, HDMI, and our power connectivity on the rear of the unit right in the center between those two very large exhaust vents. Now moving over to the left side of the laptop, we have three USB 3 ports right in a row and a very interesting array of four 3.5mm audio connections. If you're into streaming with this monstrous gaming rig, that might come in handy because you have a line in, a line out, a microphone in, and your headphone out. And of course, lastly, over to the right hand side, we have two more USB 3.0 ports and our SD card reader. Alright, now it's time to open up the laptop and take a look at what's on the inside. So the cloth between the keyboard and the screen is something you keep. That's going to be a dust cloth, so you can use that to wipe off smudges and dust. You can see our sticker badge in the bottom right hand corner that has some of the advertisements for this amazing laptop. The Dynaudio speaker system, the killer wired and wireless, the 4K screen. There's quite a bit of technology that's going to go into this laptop, and of course we'll get into those details as we move along in the review. Some people will find this very satisfying as we peel the plastic away and reveal the nice clean interior. The standard important things are here as far as the features. We have our separated left and right click buttons on the trackpad, which is great. We have a really high-end screen and a nice RGB backlit keyboard. So without any delay, let's move into the next part of our review, and that's going to be the weight and scale. So the laptop by itself will set you back 9 pounds and 12 ounces, so just short of 10 pounds. And of course, you're not going to go too far without your power adapters, which is going to cost you an additional 4 pounds and 8 ounces. So altogether, over 13 pounds of everyday carry weight. But of course, this is a full-on desktop replacement, not just your normal portable laptop, so that's not too bad. So at this point, we've pretty much covered everything that you can without having even turned on the laptop yet. So it's time to go ahead and plumb everything together and get it powered on so we can take a closer look at the system. So as you can see, it's not too bad once you get everything connected. You still only have one power cable that you actually have to mess with as far as the laptop connection itself. And that's not too bad, especially if you're going to leave these plugged in one place and only have to disconnect and reconnect the laptop on a regular basis. So we know the weight from earlier, but now we want to know the scale. So we do have coins up here to show you the scale as far as actual comparison, and a ruler for the actual measurements. Now the rear of the laptop stands about 2.5 inches tall, and the front of the laptop about 2 inches tall. You can see there's a pretty good amount of space between the tabletop and the bottom of the laptop, and that's going to be really good to help get airflow up underneath of it and help cool all this powerful hardware. So the first place that we want to go before we go into Windows is going to be the System BIOS. That way we can show you what kind of features you have available to you. Here is the storage area where we have plenty of PCIe connectivity and some SATA connectivity. Memory information here as far as 4 DIMMs being available, one populated with 16 gigabytes, but it does support up to 128 gigabytes of RAM in total. Here's the CPU technologies, including virtualization technology, so you can turn this into a very good virtual machine host. For some advanced CPU configuration, we also have the ability to manually override the fan speed and do BIOS level overclocking with our unlocked CPU. Next up is going to be the boot order selection. By default, we are always booting to the USB first and then to our hard drive. And that pretty much covers the BIOS. So moving along to the next segment of the review, now we're going to cover the running state of the laptop. You can see that beautiful RGB backlit keyboard now powered on. And all of that is going to be controlled through the MSI supplied software. So this software comes loaded with a ton of different presets, and we're just cycling through a few of them right now. Now, if you can't find something that you like as a preset, of course, you can go in there and do a full customized palette of colors. You can do different patterns, different colors. You can even turn it off, of course, if you don't want to have the lighting turned on at all. And in this particular keyboard version, not only does the keyboard light up, but you even have some customized options for the touchpad buttons as well. So if you've had the pleasure of seeing a Gentek PC product showcase before, you know that seeing this means we're entering into our benchmarking section. So the first thing we like to do is take our ambient noise readings. And right now the system will be at an idle state, so these are going to be the best case scenario figures. And of course we always test again with the system under load, so you can see the difference. Now this laptop has hotkeys on the right hand side, so we can do a manual fan speed override and kick our fans into a 100% load. So you can see the significant difference between the fans at idle and at 100% load, and this is both the best case scenario and the worst case scenario, because not under any traditional circumstance would the fans go to 100% speed. We'll go ahead and uncheck the manual override and let the system come back down to its normal operational speeds. Alright, so if before the review you didn't take a sneak peek at the specs, here they are as reported by the device manager. Now, of course, the big reason to come here and look at this laptop is the NVIDIA RTX 2080 paired with the Core i9-8950HK. So we have top dog CPU and GPU. That's going to be on the backbone of a nice motherboard with tons of storage capability, memory capability, killer wired and wireless networking, and we have an option of 2 different monitors. This is the 144 Hz refresh rate, 3 millisecond response time 1080p monitor, or you can opt for a higher resolution 4K monitor as well. Both of the monitor options will support the NVIDIA G-Sync technology, and that's going to help prevent any kind of screen tearing while you're doing your 3D gaming. Real quick, we just wanted to circle back to the keyboard and touchpad. We did show off all the colors in the software earlier, but now just to show you the usability. The left and right click buttons being separated on the touchpad is a pretty big deal. It does make it much easier to use. The keyboard itself is that low profile chiclet style keyboard with the arrow buttons integrated into it. This is going to be known as the SteelSeries Engine 3, and it has 24 programmable colors with it. Alright, so now we're about to move into the actual synthetic benchmarks. We want to get our baseline temperatures here. Now you can see about 65 degrees Celsius or so on the CPU, and our GPU is currently at 41 degrees Celsius. So the benchmark of choice right now is going to be Firestrike. And of course, while Firestrike is running, that gives us an opportunity to go back and take some of our noise and heat metrics. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is our live temperatures using our thermal camera. What we're looking for here is twofold. Where the hands touch, which is the touchpad area and the palm rest area, we want that to be nice and cool. The other thing is where the cooling vents are, you want to see all the heat concentrated there. And as a third thing, usually you want to see the keyboard also letting some of that heat out of the system. What we're seeing here is exactly what we should be seeing. The hot zones very much are where the exhaust is located on the laptop, and the palm rest area was nice and cool. So while Firestrike is still running, this gives us a chance to go back and take a second look at our noise levels and see how those fans have handled this extra additional load on the system. And actually, it's not too much higher than the idle. The system has a pretty robust cooling system. We'll see our final temperatures here in a moment, but the noise levels have gone up from about mid 30s to upper 40s to low 50s. So Firestrike has finished, and it's checking in with a score of 21,088 points. So that is a super high, very impressive score. Let's go check our temperatures. Now the CPU got pretty warm in the lower to mid 90 degrees Celsius range for the CPU. And let's go check out our GPU. Now the GPU only got up to 70 degrees Celsius, and that is a very impressive GPU temperature, especially considering this is a high-end card. Now we'll take a closer look at the cooling system later on in the review as we disassemble the laptop, but for now, let's move on to the next benchmark. So here is Cinebench R15, and we'll go ahead and let that run through its entire loop, and we'll check in at the end and see what kind of frames per second that we're getting. Alright, with everything finished, we have our scores here. About 133 frames per second on that test, which is really impressive as well. The chart down below does show us coming in at the top of our CPU ranking, and at the very, very top of our OpenGL video card rating. Alright, thank you to everybody for staying tuned with us so far for this extended length review on this major system release. Now we're getting into the final part of the review, which is going to be the system disassembly. All you would really need to do to complete this task is a standard set of precision screwdrivers and a careful hand. So as you can see, a total of 5 screws was holding on the back plate, and that would give us the internal access to the system. Now the standard precautionary statement applies here. as a brand new system that you just purchased, opening it up can void your warranty, and you wouldn't want to do that on a new system. So the best thing to do is during the checkout process, you can always customize your order if you want any upgrades to be done, and we can do those upgrades for you and keep them covered under your warranty. That said, as we cover the layout of the system, we'll kind of go over some of the maximum configuration options. Here you can see that we have 2 RAM slots that are not occupied. And there's actually 2 more on the other side of the motherboard. Each one of those slots can hold 32 gigabytes of RAM each. So a grand total of 128 gigabytes of RAM can be configured into this system. You can see the fairly large 3 speakers facing the bottom, 2 in the corners, and 1 subwoofer unit. The next thing we're going to do is take a few more screws out to show you some of the storage subsystem. So here we have an M2 SSD. You can see you can hold 3 here and 2 more over to the side. So a grand total of 5 of these can be configured into the system. There's also space underneath for a standard 2.5-inch disc as well. So that gives you the capability of loading up the system with 6 pieces of individual storage media. Given the current generation's top M2 SSDs on the market, both the capacity and the speed, that means that the GT75 can be configured for pretty much anything you want to throw at it as far as storage. So our next level of disassembly involves taking out a lot more small screws, and then now we can take the heat pipes off and our cooling fans off to get deeper down into the motherboard and show you how these heat pipe setups look. So over to the right hand side, that's the array that's responsible for the CPU, and the one on the left hand side is the one responsible for a GPU. Now you can see the dramatic die size difference. The GPU has a much bigger die than the CPU does, which means it has more surface exposure to the cooling system, which could explain why we had lower temperatures on that unit.
6.5 hours later.
Now after a very long time of carefully removing many more screws, disconnecting ribbon cables, and being careful not to break anything, we've done what is required to get to the other side of our motherboard, where we have our extra 2 RAM slots hidden. So again, back to our previous warning, if you want to upgrade your system, say you want maximum RAM capacity, don't try this at home. And after much time and much work, here we go, the coveted hidden RAM slots on the other side of the motherboard. So with our disassembly complete, that also means that our detailed review of the MSI GT75 Titan is also going to be complete. We just want to kind of wrap everything up in summary here and say that we hope you enjoyed the video, found it entertaining, educational, and useful in some way. So if you find yourself interested in the GT75, of course, the next steps to take is to go get the full details on the unit down in the video description. We have the product page link where you can see the full product specs listed out for you and the current pricing and availability. If the product page alone can't answer any of the questions you might have, then feel free to ask those down below in the comment section and we'll answer those questions for you and everybody else. And Gentech always has one-on-one support available for you by email or by phone, so feel free to contact us if you need some personalized help. So once again, we just want to remind everybody, this was Gentech PC, and we'll see you next time.